The Blackpool game especially was one of the saddest moments of my career in football. I think some successful people don't have a backup plan. It's like, why? It's like, because they'll use it. And all of a sudden, a few weeks after I arrive, there's, the rockets across the skies, the bombs, the missiles. I'm kind of sat there at the bar, we're speaking, and then his friend comes over, ends up Miguel, the singer.
Yeah.
Miguel.
Football has taken today's guest around the world. 6 countries, 11 clubs, and a career lasting 18 years. From Zambia to Wales to a successful stint as a Bluebird amongst other clubs before coming to the City Ground in 2008. He was part of that Forest side who had back-to-back playoff semi-final attempts, and he is still the man who has the record for hat-tricks in all divisions in the EFL, the Premier League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, and as an international. And he's a man who continues to push himself to the limit, even in retirement. Please welcome to the official Nottingham Forest podcast, On and Off the Pitch, with Robert Earnshaw. Welcome.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure it is to be here. What an intro.
Well, I did a little research about you, and you are such an interesting chap. So I wanted to start with something that I'd found on Twitter, of all places, because you've become known for some quotes and maybe some profound statements. And I wanted to read a couple to you first and then get your thoughts on one. One of them, okay. Rob.
I like the start already.
We're not our age, we're our energy. Lessons in life will be repeated until they are learned. What matters most is how well you walk through the fire. I really liked those 3, and I wanted you to tell us if you have one in particular quote that you try and live your life by.
That's a very good start. Yeah, I mean, anything I tweet is because it probably has some kind of relevance to me, as well as probably a lot of people. And also I think it's something of, sometimes it's advice, sometimes it's just something that I think it's powerful, like those things. But I think probably the one right now that I think is very strong for me is it's not the ones who has the most, it's who needs the least. And I think that one right now is kind of relevant because I think, with me especially, I'm traveling, I'm playing football, I'm doing this, and I've lived in all these different countries and so many different people. I meet, so many different people and so many different things in life, and I've lived in so many different places. And then at some point it started to be like, it's actually not always about just doing more and more and more and more and more. It's sometimes about the quality. And I think that's probably what it's about more. It's about quality. When you meet good people, I want to speak more with them. When I have some nice things, not the most amount of things, but just a handful of nice things, that's nice. I can enjoy that. I can put that energy into it. So that's probably the one that's I can think of right now.
Because you seem like you do things a lot with intention, and I've seen your gym antics on social media, coupled with chess. You do a multi kind of mental, physical workout.
Yeah.
Is that just about being the best version of you? And where did this best version of yourself come from? Was it your father? Obviously, I know your story about your father, and we'll go into that. Or was it your mother? Did it come from a parent or one of your siblings? Why do you think you go about life how you do with such intention, and you're a very self-disciplined individual?
I think where it comes from, I think you're always influenced by people. I think I've had some really great friends along the way, and I've had my dad passed away. I was born in Zambia. We moved to Malawi. In Malawi, my dad passes away. I'm 9 years old. My mum's left with 5 kids to raise. We moved to UK, to Wales. And then I think that influences you because, my mum has all the energy in the world. So there's a part that's that kind of like the flame, so I think that's a big part. But also at the same time, as much as the kind of that, she's also, and I always say this, my mum didn't really stand in the way of all my imagination. And I think a lot of it comes from my imagination. I mean that in a way of, for example, my mum, I can't ever remember my mum kind of from, I don't know, where 11 to 16, 18, whatever it is. I can't ever remember my mum standing in the way and saying, but, that sounds a bit hard, and I'm saying, but I want to become a footballer and, I want to play that in the Premier League there, what I see on TV. My mum was never there to say no or, do you know how many actual players that actually make it?
Maybe she didn't actually know. I know she played football herself, but
no, but she see me in the street, because especially
Did she think you were good in the street?
Yeah,
was
yeah.
That the difference? Did she think you were good or were you bad?
Yeah, well, maybe because she saw something, so that's good. But I think there was always something that kind of gives you that little bit of maybe think twice. And there was never that. It was I was very. Some of my friends did around, and it's like, oh yeah, but that's But I think that then you can either go with that thought, or then you can go with, well, actually no, that's exactly what I want to do. And we talked about chess. Chess is one of those things that as a kid I was always like, I'd love to play chess. I'd love to play chess. I'd love to play chess. And then over the last few years, I went, do you know what? I'm going to play chess. Let me start. Let me learn. And I think you do have a lot of people and inspirations along the way that give you almost open the door a little bit, when I was coming through and I was like a young kid, in Wales playing football. There was, there's coaches that say, yeah, come along. Or when my mum couldn't take us to football, there was coaches said, oh, I'll pick you up. So those things, because it's like, how amazing. They'd given their time to pick me up and take me to football, make sure, I have some food there when I come back, drop me off. So those things, because for me, that's like the powerful part of like, wow, like they're doing that for me so I can go play football. Later on, the youth team managers, they start saying, hey, you've got something, but here's the hard work. This is what you have to do. You do an extra session on a Tuesday, and this is the direction you go. And so those things, I'm like, wow, okay, that's the pathway. And then along the way, you pick up all these experiences, but you start also, taking in, building a character, building your own discipline, and over time, then I can be able to like, okay, what do I want to do? And then, okay, I can try and figure out more of, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And this is the pathway. And when, I have to say no to, this chocolate bar over here, I'll be like, no, I'll have that on Sunday. That's my cheat day, or whatever it is. So along the way, you pick up these things.
Have you got someone in particular though, throughout your journey, that if you took that person out of it, albeit in football, as a player, as a manager, as a parent, as a sibling, that you wouldn't be the same Robbie or had the same career? So one person on your journey that had that big impact and was maybe a sliding doors turning point moment, that if you actually took out of your journey, you wouldn't have had the same career you had?
Well, yeah, definitely. I think lots of those. But the one I always think about first of all is the first chance I got, because everything I do is probably unorthodox, but in a good way, because I believe in that. I believe in the way, because you go down the right route and things, the universe kind of meets you halfway. But when I was a kid from 14 to 16. I was scoring lots of goals locally. I never came through like the academies now. I never came through. I wasn't spotted. I went training a couple of times, but they were like, But
what did they say? You weren't good enough? What did they think?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because they didn't sign me. So I went and trained. Actually, I trained at Swansea for a few times. I trained at Cardiff. And I trained at Oxford as well. I had Oxford, and none of them signed me. Only later on, when I was literally probably 2 months from leaving school, and I'm probably 15, just about to turn 16, was probably the biggest year. Is literally, I have no club. I want to become a footballer. I am just about to turn 16. I'm finishing school in a couple of months.
Did you have a backup then? Or
No.
did you always believe it was happening?
No backup. That's the thing. So
Were you good at anything else? Did you excel at
laughing
school?
around and
Okay.
joking with my friends.
Comedian? Okay, there's a career in that here. It's quite
But
well
no,
paid.
I didn't really. I didn't really have a backup plan, and that, I think sometimes that's, for me, is a good thing, because then it allows you to go full into that one thing. Because I heard a great quote the other day that I think some successful people don't have a backup plan. It's like, why? It's like, because they'll use it.
Yeah, I like
you
that.
know. So for me, it was I was 15, just about turned 16, and I went to Cardiff. Were just accidentally training, playing a game. The youth team were training, playing a game on the next pitch over to my just local team. I'm playing, and their kickoff was about 45 minutes later. So they're there, and it's got time for the youth team manager at the time to take a look left and watch the next game. In that first half, I score a hat-trick, and it's a guy called Gavin Tate, who's the youth team manager. He spoke with my coach, said, come train in a few times. I went about 4 or 5 times training, and this is within like 4 or 5 weeks. And then I was like, because in the day, my friends in school are like, oh, what are you going to do next year? We're all thinking, maybe stay on, go to college, all of these things or whatever. I was like, I don't know. But let's see. I've been training with Cardiff for a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. Let's see how that goes. I went training maybe, I think, another 2 times. On the last day, he goes, I've got 1 spot left on my youth team. And you're going to be it. Do you want it? And I was like... And that was the same night where I had a record of achievement night. So I was before the training. I was like, well, there's a record of achievement. It's the biggest night in school. This is our leaving due almost for school, but it's the same night as the football training. And it's like, I went in training. I did the session. He says that to me and says, this is the last place for the youth team next year. Do you want it? And I was like... So that was Gavin Tate who said that to me. So he's somebody that I always think back and think, he gave me the opportunity to say, I'm at a football club. I'm at a professional football club. This was at Cardiff City, and I was 16. And 6 months later, I was playing in the first team. So I think that was definitely the turning point, because it was all about the opportunity and somebody saying, yeah, this kid's got talent. I think we can work on him to have something, and maybe in the future he has some talent to go into our first team or have a career. 20 years later, 6 countries later, I did have a career. But I think those moments give you a lot. But I've always been also one, like I said earlier, that you also sometimes got to pause and remember where you were at. So I learned a lot of things along the way, sometimes how to do things, but also sometimes how to not do things. And along the way, I definitely picked up different things.
So your mum kind of, I guess, helped you get into football by not saying no. Gavin Tate gave you the first opportunity.
Yeah, my mum was as well. I think... It's only now I look back, and my mum was one of those as well, because my mum actually played football. So my mum used to play football back in Zambia, and I remember as a probably 4-year-old, something like that, just falling over, running around, seeing her playing football, and I have those memories. And I think that probably sometimes maybe gives you the picture, but the picture doesn't come alive until years later. So I think maybe those things as well inspire you for later on, because is it coincidence sometimes that your mum played football and then you played football, but it was only probably 10 years later that I really started to get into football. So maybe the seed is planted years earlier and it only kind of comes along, maybe 5-10 years later.
Was that a profession for your mum? It seems like a bit of a trailblazing moment for your mum back then to be playing football as a woman in Zambia. And did your siblings, were they kind of involved in football or sport? I know you have a gymnastics element to you. We'll get onto that a little bit later as well. And your mum boxed, so she's a very sporty family.
Yeah, my mum was the sporty one for sure. And the rest, no. My dad was a manager of a coal mine, and that's how he was born in Yorkshire. Yorkshire man, went over to Africa, was working, met my mum, and he never, he wasn't a footballer. He didn't play football, and I have not one memory of even playing football with my dad, which is sad also, which is a memory that I want, but also at the same time, I have not. I only have the memory of seeing my mum playing football on the field and kicking the ball around there a little bit. And then, in school as well, but that, like we said, when I went to school in Africa, it was, I was barefoot. There's no football, there's plastic bags. We put them together and then we throw that down and we kick that around in the middle of Africa. So there's those things that I remember the most. And then, after that, then it's probably, seeing my mum. And I have a second cousin who's called Kalusha Bwalia. Kalusha Bwalia played for Zambia. He was older, close to the family, and he was, I think somebody was also in the background that he became the African Football of the Year, one of the greatest Zambian players ever. So I think those things, when maybe I'm a small little child, seeing him, maybe leaves something, leaves a little dust there to settle. But he was, people like that. But yeah, I think for sure, because my mum was, she raised us. She was probably the one that I definitely first look at and think, there's the drive, there's the passion, there's the sport, there's all of those things in me.
Yeah, I mean, the unconscious things that you don't really know that obviously make you who you are today. And you mentioned your past obviously dictates who you become in the future. And skip forward a little bit in your career, you had a very successful stint, like we mentioned, over at Cardiff. We don't want to talk about that today. Of course we don't. We want to talk about your spell here at Forest, which began...
The great times here.
Which began in 2008, which were some of the best times. After we had such success early on, then we had that bit of a... What word should I use here? Barren patch? Let's go with barren patch. I said it now. And obviously just got promoted back to the championship when you joined. How was it when you first came to Forest? What were your initial thoughts of joining this club?
I think the first, probably two things that I thought was, number one, I remember Old Forest. Like
everyone remembers Old Forest.
Everybody and that's what I actually love about this football club, is they remember all the times. It's not like, oh yeah, let's forget this part. The good parts, yes. The bad parts, but we remember the history. And I remember watching Forest in the Premier League and watching the Brian Roys and Stan Collymores and all of those guys scoring in the Premier League. And I was like, what a good football team to watch. But my first impressions here was definitely those feelings, those memories are still alive. They're still here. And all the legends that have come through the door, they're still here. And that's what I felt when I came here. But at the same time, I felt that it was a good environment, good football club, with good people, trying to progress the football club the right way. And I was, I had a conversation with Colin Calderwood, who was the manager at the time. And he's the one that convinced me to come. So he's the one that...
Did you need convincing? Because you're only at Derby. Did you need convincing really that much to come over here?
Not a lot. Because I was destined to come here. This is the club. But no, I think it was the manner of the conversation, because I knew of the interest. The issue at that moment, and why maybe I needed at least a conversation, a discussion, was Forest were in League One at the time, just got promoted. So it was about, okay, you just got promoted. I know about your history. I know it's a good football club, but what's the plan? What's the plan going forward? So we had a really nice conversation right here. I spent about probably 2 or 3 hours in Colin Calderwood's office, and we had really nice conversation. I think probably one of the best conversations I've ever had with a manager just about to sign, because it was just pure. It was football, and he was very open. He was like, "Listen, we've just got promoted. We've got a young team, but we're trying to add some pieces. We need some people. We need a little bit of experience. We need quality. You're one of them. You are, we want you to come here and score goals like you do." And I think having that conversation really convinced me to be like, yeah, this is, because you need that. You need the manager backing you. You need the football club. You need the players around you. You need all of those things. And I just felt that it was the right place to come and play football.
Obviously, 2008, 2009 didn't particularly go to plan. For you personally, actually, you had a stellar year. But in terms of when mid-season a manager is in out of favour, he gets let go. I think it was Boxing Day of 2008, if I'm correct. You probably know. What is the club like then? What do you feel like? Tell me about the vibe. You're bottom of the table. What on earth do you do as a person, as a collective? From
a player's perspective, I mean, you signed for a football club. 4 or 5 months before, I was signed for a football club, Nottingham Forest, excited. All these good conversations that we had. This is a young team. We could do better. Results not great in the league and everything like that. And then Colin Calderwood gets sacked. From a player, it's like, why? Let's have more time, but you also understand that things are not being good.
Did you want more time? Did you think he was going to continue in that job? And did you have any knowledge that he might get let go?
I think you always get to probably those last 2 or 3 weeks, you start to kind of feel that there's pressure or extra pressure. And he was under extra pressure. But at the same time, you're like, no, we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around. We only need 1 or 2 results and we'll turn it around. So it's always that hope versus hearing and knowing that the amount of pressure that's going on behind the scenes. But we didn't know. I mean, as a player, you never really know. Sometimes you get an idea or somebody said something or whatever. But generally, sometimes you don't know until you come in and, oh, the manager's gone. Was that what it was like? Because there's no social media then. Maybe it was in a Nottinghamshire Post. It's like, oh, the manager's been sacked. Like, how did you guys? Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. We came into training and the manager's gone and the manager's been sacked. So we're like, well, who's taking training? What's happening? What happens now? Is there somebody coming in? So there's all these questions, and sometimes as a player, you're in the dressing room and 25 players, 30 players in the dressing room asking the same questions. And I did one more time. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with Colin Calderwood. And then, I think straight away you switch to, okay, who's going to come in? Billy Davies came in, I think it was a week later, but within a few days it was announced, so we knew. And then I think we played Man City away in the FA Cup, in between the one manager to another, so it was just a crazy time. So I remember Colin Calderwood's been sacked. We have no manager. All the other coaches, they're taking training, waiting for whoever's going to be announced. It gets announced a couple of days later, but a couple of days after that, we know we're playing in the FA Cup, so we still have to get ready for the game. You have to be game ready. Can you get ready though without a manager? Is it that same team morale, or are you just all a bit kind of doing your own thing, not really as a unit? I think definitely it feels more disconnected. But you're trying to be, as a team, trying to do the right things and try to be professional in how you train and preparing for a game, because you still have to play the game. You still have to play the game for the fans and for you and represent the football club. So you're still trying to do that, but it's hard, very, very hard and very difficult, because it's like, who's going to tell us what to do, how we're going to play, what system we're going to play, so those things are not quite there. So it's a bit disconnected. Was there someone in that squad who, in that only a small window, but when you played City, for example, took on more of a coaching, managing role? I remember Ian Brecken at the time. I think just kind of generally the squad was kind of okay. Let's get through this. Let's figure out a way. Let's go play. Because it was a young group, there wasn't too many leaders in a way of like experience or older heads. I mean, I was probably one of the older ones. I was like, what, 27, something like that, or 26 at the time or whatever. But I think all of us, we were just kind of like, do you know what? We play Man City in a couple of days. We got to go to the Etihad. Let's just play free. Let's go see what happens. And I remember, everybody remembers that day because we go and win 3-0 at Man City. And
is that pressure off?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the interesting thing was, Billy was appointed, and he came in the he was at the game, and he was watching, and he came in the dressing room beforehand, officially taking the job a couple of days later on the Monday. And Billy came in, so it was almost like, oh, we've got to impress, but at the same time, he's not started, and you know what's going to kind of happen. But we're playing some of the best players in the world, so it was also about, do you know what? Let's go play free, and it was an unbelievable day because we literally played free. We scored some great goals. The performance was like super competitive. And we go and win 3-0 against Man City. And it was just, we walked off thinking, how do we do that? What happened? So it was that feeling. But at the same time, we played a great game, and that's why it happened. So, but you're still like in disbelief.
I mean, that's the thing with football, isn't it? That set of players didn't change to who was at the bottom of the championship there, where Colin leaves, Billy comes in a week later. So why does the kind of mentality in a team change so much, and why can you improve? Okay, you didn't go on to excel like you did the year after, but that set of players still didn't really change that much from 2008-9 to 9-10 and then 10-11 when you became so successful. Yeah. Was that just Billy that changed it?
The core was exactly the same. We added, every year we added 2 or 3 pieces.
So but fans go, why couldn't you have done that with Colin? And Colin probably said, why couldn't you have done that with me? Like, why? I'm asking you, why does that
No, do you know what?
Change so much?
And we love Colin. But I think what changed was probably that extra, I guess, demand on us. On everything. I remember Billy coming in, and he didn't take the training sessions for the first week.
Was he just observing you all?
That's what we find out later. Yeah. But Billy's not. I mean, when a new manager comes in, and the difference is some managers come in and demand more from you, and look at every detail, and also push you to go, further than you have, and that's maybe the difference. And maybe it's sometimes also tactics. Sometimes the way you play in football on the pitch, even though you're trying to give everything, it's the way, tweak this, change that, move this, and do the. Sometimes those are the difference. I think those are what happens. But I think the biggest thing is Billy coming in, and the first week he doesn't take training session, and that's weird.
What did you think then?
I was thinking, well, what's he doing? What's happening here? Because really...
What were the team thinking? Hang on, because you didn't have WhatsApp then. How did you kind of...
I think we're all the same because...
Speak to each other out of training.
Yeah, the conversation was the same because it's generally a manager comes in, they'll take the first training session or they'll say the first words, they'll come in. And he did that. He had a conversation, introduction, all that, but quickly moved. And that's it. We don't really see him for the first week. And the team's the same, and we think, what's going on? Because generally, a manager comes in, he'll take the first session to stamp, and they give you some little pointers of, okay, now this is the level we have to hit. This is what I want. I'm the new guy. This is what I want, and it wasn't any of that. So for the first week, we're training as we do, and the assistant coaches that came in are taking the training, but we didn't realize videos. Billy's videoing the sessions. Then we play a game. Nothing really happened. The next week, it was really Billy. So he comes in first thing Monday, video session. And he started, not about the game, it was about the training. And he starts looking at, he brings out the video and puts in the video, and then he used to love to pause and play, because he'll play it for like a few seconds, pause, and then full on rant. It was, look at him there. What's he doing? He doesn't match a 1-2. Where's he running? Look how slow he is. But this is in front of the team. So this is the video meeting on a Monday. And that's when a week later, Billy arrives, and then this is the demand. So I think we needed that maybe. And that's maybe the difference at the time between Colin Calderwood and Billy Davies at the time. But we needed that. We didn't know we needed it. But he just said, no, I see this as too slow and not competitive enough. And, you know, the little details are off. We're not matching 1-2s here when, you know, somebody pops it here and then goes through and you leave him go. Those things were like now analyzed. So every little detail was analyzed, and then it was like, oh wow, okay. Because as a player, if you're listening to this, you're then, oh right, okay, I can't be the one who doesn't match a 1-2. I can't be the one who, if the defender runs in front, I'm sprinting with it. I'm getting ahead because I'm going to be on the video on Monday morning. So it's those little things that came in, and they were good for us because you start to build up that disciplines and those things. And then over time, then at first it was hard work, and it was like, you know, and sometimes you do lose position, or, you know, you get caught in a position where you're ball watching and somebody's got the ball and you think, oh, I was supposed to be there. And then you hear it from the side. So you have those few moments, and then after it becomes automatic that, you know, you just start to see things around. And then, you know, somebody does a 1-2, bang, I'm with them. I'm going to match it, get ahead of him. They don't get ahead, they don't go score a goal, and the other end, whatever it is, as an example. But those things that started happening, and then those things become habits. Slowly, you build them and get better and better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, we were then matching every team for work rate, for details. And then the other side, attacking, it was the same. Then, you know, our intensity of like what we're trying to do. I was lucky because I was always the same. I like that in an attacking sense, but as a team, defensively, we're conceding too many goals. So those are the things that needed urgently addressing to get better. Then we're allowed ourselves to then go score goals and win games and, you know, be 1 or 2 goals up. And the improvement happens over the next couple of years.
How demanding was Billy on you as a person? Did he like your somersaults that you did? Did he tell you not to do them? Like, what was he like individually, one-on-one to you? Can you remember any kind of specific moments that are really stuck in your mind from your experiences, your relationship?
His demand for it was, I mean, he was very demanding. He's probably one of the most demanding coaches I've ever had, Billy, because everything that was like, what you were perceived as your limit, he said, no, I'm going to add 25% on top of that or 50% on top of that. And that was his demand. And he never really, I think not so much on goal scoring and attacking sense. It was more on how I did that, and definitely defensively and positions to take up when the team hasn't got the ball. I think those are the areas especially because also at the same time, he kind of left me have a freedom, which I needed as well. I'm one of those players that needed the freedom to attack and be inventive and see, because I think he understood that naturally I'm the one who studied goal scoring the most. Like every little detail I'll study more than the coach. So when it comes to attacking or scoring goals, where to be, what type of run, where to move, how to finish, which technique, I was training that every day to be better at this, and it was kind of like categorized in small little areas. And this type of finish and this type of movement, going against the goalkeeper 1v1, finishing from the left, finishing from the right, 1v1 against the defender, then the goalkeeper, or everything. I studied it. So he gave me a lot of freedom to be like, he knows how to attack. I'll just make sure that if he loses the ball, I'm going to scream at it. And what I always remember from Billy is, if I ever lost the ball, if any player actually ever lost the ball, it was all of us, we knew, would have the whistle, Billy's whistle. No fingers, no nothing. You just like, I don't even know how to do whatever.
Yeah, I can't do it.
He had the
so
loudest whistle in the world, but you knew if you just lost the ball, it was absolute, like he would go at you and tell you like, you should not be losing the ball. But it was like, do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what? No problem. I'm going to keep it next time. But we needed that pushing to improve and get better, and that demand, we needed that. So it was really good for us. And listen, it's also why we got to the playoffs. It's also why we improved instantly, and we got better and better, and we're close to going to the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think we already mentioned this. I think looking back, it was great years, wasn't it? Between 2009-10 to 2010-11, those two consecutive playoff semi-finals. I think you finished third, was it, in the was it Blackpool? Missed out on that one.
Yeah.
9-10, and then Swansea.
10? Yeah.
The
then
year
10,
after.
11, we finished, I think, sixth. And then, but both years, semi-finals of the playoffs.
I think both years, everyone obviously expected, but also obviously hoped. Why? What was it that you guys came unstuck at the semi-final hurdle, do you think, both times? Because you were clearly capable enough.
It was probably a few things. I think a little bit being, as a team, a little bit naive. We made too many mistakes in the biggest moments. You look at the Blackpool games, the goals that we conceded, they were weird for us to concede in that way, and so many. So when we had the playoff against Blackpool, for example, the second leg, the first leg, we lost 2-1 away. And then, but we felt, no problem, because
you were in it still.
We'll beat them at home, because we're good at home, so we'll beat them at home. We came and I scored within the first 6 or 7 minutes, and everybody just felt, okay, this is normal Forest. Yeah, normal service resumes, and then we obviously we score, they score, but it got to aggregate 3-3, and we just felt, it's going to come.
So you had the belief. It was just luck?
It was a little bit of luck, a little bit of lack of concentration in the wrong moment, at the wrong time, on the biggest stage, on the biggest moment. Because, the goals that we concede, the balls we give away. And I think we didn't concede, concede a goal at home since February or something like that. And here we are in the playoffs months later, and we haven't conceded. And then all of a sudden we concede 4 goals in the second leg, 2 goals in the first leg, and you just think, what happened? And do you know what? The Blackpool game especially was one of the saddest moments of my career in football, just because I just felt that this is it for us. We're going to the Premier League. This is our season, because we were so good in that season. And I was just like so sad. I think if you could probably look back at the pictures of when the final whistle goes, I just kind of just dropped, because I was like, I don't know how that happened, because I just felt like, and we played pretty good as well. That was the worst thing. We played pretty good. I remember getting a couple of goals, and I just felt like this was our day. It just felt like we're going to go through, and we're going to go to Wembley and then go to the Premier League. And that was the feeling. And we just got a big shock from a team that beat us on the day, because probably if we play them 10 times, we probably beat them most of the time. But it just happened to be that one game lost us the chance to go to the Premier League. And it was one of the saddest moments of my career, for sure, because I just felt, I was so sad. My heart was just so sad. I remember that feeling even now, and it was really, really devastating.
And then on reflection, a year later, Swansea, similar story. I guess people would go, had you not learned how to deal with that situation? 2 legs, 2 games, you can go to Wembley. When you look back at that now, what was your biggest takeaway from why that year didn't work out?
Do you know what? Now I feel that 09-10 season we were probably more ready than the next season. And you'd think it would be the opposite way around. You think, okay, round one is you get a feel for it. You made a few mistakes. Round two, okay, they'll do it because they've got a little bit more experience and they understand the situation. They've been in it last year. And it wasn't. I think it was a little bit more disruption within what we were trying to do, because we're playing Swansea, and I think Swansea were the best team in the league at the time. They were so hard to play up against, but we also really should have gone through.
Yeah, that second leg. You watch that back on YouTube. That's disastrous.
Oh my goodness.
To watch.
Yeah, that was devastating as well, because I felt like, I think we were more equipped and ready, and the feeling was better that year before, but we were also ready against when we played Swansea, because even, I think Neil Taylor gets sent off within like 2 minutes here, and we're playing the first leg at home, and you just think, oh, they're going to go through and finish it in the first leg, so the second leg is easier. Never happened that way. I think we draw 0-0, then go with the second leg, and then the second leg was just a disaster. But I think even little things like the team changed. I think Billy changed the team, 4 or 5 changes in the second leg. It might have been more, but I just remember loads of changes to what we thought was our best team. So I feel like we didn't play our best team on paper to go to that in that second leg, and it was no surprise that we go and concede. And but I just felt like when we finished the game, or how we finished the game, was how we should have started. And I remember hitting the post. There was a penalty shout all within 15 minutes. And then I scored the goal as well. And when I scored the goal, it was just like, oh, right, okay, that hope is still there. That forest fire is still there. And we run out of time.
Yeah.
we literally run out of time. And it just felt like, I think even the Swansea players, because I was playing against Ashley Williams, who I knew in the national team with Wales. And I think even they felt like, do you know what, another 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
We'd have had them.
Yeah, we would have had them. And that's the disappointing part about that Swansea game, that Swansea playoff second leg, because we're attacking, they go and score. I think it was from the halfway line in the end, because Campy decided to go for his ice cream.
Everyone down there.
But it was the time we were throwing everything at it. But
the scoreline didn't particularly reflect that match in that second leg. Conscious of time, but I really want to fast track towards you going abroad and playing in a couple of different countries. Obviously, you went to Israel, and then you went to Canada and America. I kind of want to know more overarching in terms of how culturally different were those clubs and the countries from your time here in the EFL or in the Premier League?
Oh, extremely different, yeah. Because, listen, for me, it was always about experiencing more. And that's, I guess, one of the fundamental things. I like to experience more on different things, different situations, different cultures. And I decided that I wanted to play abroad. I wanted to experience different types of football. I got a call from Jordi Cruyff, who was the director of football at Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel. This was 2012. And this was on a Sunday afternoon, and literally I probably had about 4 hours, because the transfer window was closing. I had about 4 hours to make a decision whether to move to Israel or not. And Jordi Cruyff calls me and said, "Listen, this is the project. This is what we're doing, and this is what I want you to be part of. And come out. I'll look after you, score goals, and do well." And I was like, well, I've never been to Israel. I don't know the club. So you kind of look into it a little bit, but I literally had hours to make up my mind. So I go and make up my mind, and I was like, Jordi, I'm trusting you. Look after me then. But I want to experience we had a Spanish coach. We had who came from Barcelona at the time. We had some of the staff were from Valencia. Definitely a Spanish, Dutch, and a very mixed kind of environment that we had there at Maccabi Tel Aviv. And that season, then we end up winning the league, and that's when they started going to the Champions League. But it was a great experience, but also crazy at the same time, because the war with in Gaza and Israel is ongoing for 60, 70, 80 years or whatever it is. So I was caught up in the middle of that. So at some point, I'm enjoying training, playing, and all of a sudden, a few weeks after I arrive, There's, the rockets across the skies, the bombs, the missiles. And it was like, whoa, what's going on? The siren over the city of Tel Aviv starts going off. And I was caught up in a war that I wasn't part of. I was here to play football. And all of a sudden I'm caught up in, I was training literally, and the sirens are going off. The missiles are flying around. And we just run into the side of the building in the middle of a training session. And I was like, wow, this is definitely not what I signed up for. And that went on for weeks and weeks. But it was a crazy time. But the culture is very, very different. The politics, the things especially when I went to Israel, very, very different, crazy. And
was it something you had to learn, like footballing wise, or kind of around the club that you'd never experienced before here? Like a way they used to do things? Yeah,
definitely. And I think as much as, that side of it and what I've described there with the war and missiles and dodging, missiles and everything like that, that was crazy. The other side, the football side, I actually learned probably the most in the first 2 months than I did probably the previous 6 years in the UK. And I always say that is because at the time, for example, I always look back and think positional play, where to be, even as like a chess game almost. You move here, you move here, you move here, but it's every move is kind of calculated. And it was eye-opening because sometimes goalkeeper gets it, we kick it long, somebody flicks on, but it's kind of a little bit of hope in there, not methodical. But when I went to abroad, especially when I went to Maccabi Tel Aviv, it was like everything's methodical. We move the ball here, so we move it here. When he moves there, you move here, and it was very much that way. And then all of a sudden, you end up with a goal, and the other team don't know how, but we've been working on this in training. So there's loads of these little things. I was like, okay, I'm learning a lot. And I came back and I went to, I went also to Toronto. That was another one.
Was that always like not a backwards step in terms of your career, but in terms of probably how they approached the game at that time? Completely
MLS, you mean?
Yeah, compared to going out to Israel when they were so methodical, like you said. Maybe the MLS at that time were still in their infancy, and they're not obviously a massive sport in the US, and still finding their feet, even possibly still now.
Yeah, I think tactically, yes. But, whether it's like the physically, the running, the team, the football, it's still the same. It's still fundamentally the same sport. And we actually had some very good players out there who played in Europe and, in our team and played to a high level. So we had, good players that, understand football. So there was a lot of that. And Ryan Nelson, who played at Blackburn, centre-back in the Premier League for years and years. He was the coach. So it was a British idea of what he was trying to do. But I enjoyed it out there. I've enjoyed moving and going into different cultures. I've enjoyed playing with different players, and you look across the dressing room sometimes. And I remember in Toronto and when I was in Vancouver, and I'm looking around and I'm like, there's 5 or 6 languages spoke in the dressing room. This guy's from, I don't know, South America. This guy's from Middle Europe. This guy's from Eastern Europe. This guy's from, right here in the US or Canada. This guy's from, Argentina. So it was just like different cultures. And I think I've been exposed to so many different cultures, and it's also good because I think, now I have friends who are now from all sorts of different countries. I was saying this the other day, actually. I can probably make a phone call now to somebody who lives on probably every continent because I played with them or I coached them or we become friends or whatever. But I think that's what I've got a lot of the last 10 years or so of traveling and being in different countries, that I've been exposed to all these different cultures. But it was good. It was very, very good. And I've had some really, really good times, crazy experiences, even off the pitch, some of the things that, you sometimes, you're in a situation and you're like, how did I get here?
Like one that you can
happened? Share? When I went to Toronto, so I'm in Toronto and after a couple of months there, a friend of mine invites me, come out, let me show you around. So he showed me around, and then, we end up going to this bar, and he's like, oh, he's got a couple of friends coming up, and they get a table with us. And it's like 4 or 5 of them, whatever. One of them's a really good guy. Start speaking to him, ends up this crazy like billionaire guy. And then a few moments later, I say, I got a friend of mine coming or whatever. And I'm kind of sat there at the bar, we're speaking, and then his friend comes over. It ends up Miguel, the singer. Yeah. Miguel. And Miguel comes over and he sits next to us, and then we spend the night with like Miguel. And I'm just like, how did this happen? At the time, imagine I just started listening to Miguel and think, oh, this guy's great. I'm a big fan. And a few moments later, he turns up.
Did he sing? Did he sing is my question.
Oh yeah, he was singing. Yeah, he had his sunglasses on in the bar. But I'm speaking with Miguel at the time, and he's I used to play football as well, or soccer. I used to play soccer at the time, and I was just like, I caught myself thinking, how did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, football gives you some amazing experiences. I know you were at the World Cup in Qatar. I was as well. Being at that final was something that I'll never forget. And I'm sure you were either now as your role.
I felt like a kid again.
Me too.
Qatar.
Best match ever. Sorry, Forest. I'm going to move you on though, Rob, because we spoke about places that possibly had impacted you. I'm now going to go to people that maybe have, not necessarily I'm going to say impacted you, maybe have some good stories about. And I'm actually starting with a player that you played with at Norwich.
Mr. Dion Dublin. No.
Just because people know him.
Yeah.
Now as a famous face, continued in kind of the same form as you have.
Yeah, I mean, listen, lots and lots. I'm probably missing out a bunch of players that have influenced me or helped me or whatever. But Dion Dublin, I played with Dion at Norwich City. In 2007, I think 2006, 2007. Great time, great guy. Really.
Any stories that stand out for you and Dion?
Yeah, I mean, stories about Dion. I don't know if I can share all of them.
Just one.
No, the best thing about with Dion. So I moved. So when he moved to Norwich, I moved to Norwich. We were in the hotel for literally. Because he used to live actually not in Norwich, so he used to live like in the Midlands somewhere, and that's where his home was. And what I remember about Dion is I was in the hotel for a long time, like probably 4 months. I was in there actually in the hotel.
Didn't want to pay rent.
No, I was joking. I was actually renovating my house, which I bought at the time. So that's why I was in there for so long. And then so Dion used to come used to stay in the hotel, but Dion only trained 2 or 3 times a week maximum, and this guy's 35 years of age, and he literally only trained 2 or 3 times, and then played, and he was unbelievable on the Saturday because he used to live away for the first few days until Thursday. And then he used to come on Thursday and then train Thursday, Friday, game Saturday, and he was unbelievable. And
maybe he was a secret trainer. Maybe some of these people do this.
Oh, he definitely kept fit, but he's a good guy, and he did keep himself right. That's why he could do that. But it was just remarkable to me that he didn't train with us until Thursday, Friday. He trained on his own and in the gym and all of these other things that he was doing. And then he just turned up Thursday, Friday, trained with us, then played Saturday. And he was unbelievable and he was brilliant. But he helped me a lot because I really enjoyed playing with him because I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have learned if I was just watching him on TV. Mm-hmm. For example, he's very intelligent in how he moved, where he positioned himself, his communication as well. He always used to speak with me. And I was like, just by little things, not like lots of words or whatever. It's sometimes you move left, or here I am, little things. But then you knew where he was, what he's gonna do. He's seen you, and then you could kind of relate. And so those little things. So good time spent with Dion.
Finally, I'm gonna give you one more because time is of the essence here. Someone that had success with you here at Forest.
Yeah, Chris Cohen. My ice bath teammate. Yeah, well, me and Chris spent, obviously the 3 years here. Good guy. He's gone into coaching. He's done very well for himself, and I wish him all the best as well. Still, I want him to do well. obviously a legend at Forest as well. The thing probably I think people don't know is me and Chris spent so many times in the ice bath, joking, laughing. And so every Thursday and Friday, it was me and him, probably still like 4 o'clock a day. Everybody's left for like 2 or 3 hours earlier. And we're still at the training ground.
Are you not shivering at the same time?
Oh yeah,
okay, sure.
we were in the ice bath, and then we'll have like needles from acupuncture from the physio, and then we'll have like quizzes. It got to the point where it was just like more and more things. Like we were just here on the
prolonging going home. They obviously didn't want to go home, guys. No, I'm joking.
We just loved it. So it got to the point where it was like if it was Thursday, Friday, the physios knew they weren't going home before us. So it was like we would do the acupuncture, we'd do the ice baths, we'd have the kit man, Dan, who's still here, the kit man. He was involved. He was only young. I think he was 18, something like that at the time.
Well, he was keen, weren't you, Dan?
Yeah. And we had so many laughs with him. He's got some stories as well. We would be like in the ice bath, but we were like shivering and dying, and we'd be there 10 minutes, and we would be like, Dan, come on, sing us a song, give us a dance, entertain us, because we need to get through this. So he'd be there like doing dances and things like this, telling us jokes. And then it got to the point we finished that. Then we go into the physio room at the end of the day, have a massage because we're getting ready for the game in the next day or two. And then it got to the point where in the physio room we were having quizzes. This is like 4 hours of like game prep.
So they just give you the keys to lock up at the end and just say, "Please, guys, can you go home now?"
Pretty much. But those are probably the things that people didn't see when we were, fighting for those playoffs at the time when we were playing together. But good times with Chris. Enjoyed it, and I'm glad he's doing well coaching. Yeah,
well, that kind of gave you a little bit of insight into why possibly you were so successful. You didn't leave any stone unturned in the ice bath with singing and quizzes. Chris and Rob there at the end. Rob, we have one more thing that we like to do, inflict some more pain on our guests, and that is the leaderboard. Yatesy is still on top with 5. This is out of 6, okay?
Okay.
So, they are around you-ish, but we'll just see how you get on today.
This will be a test.
Right,
I'm not confident.
Rob, I think number 1 is easy, okay? Wales finally qualified for the World Cup in Qatar after how many years not being involved?
64 years.
I was going to say, if you didn't know that, being a part of the World Cup, I would really be having a go at you right now. Correct answer, 64.
Woohoo!
2. Your cousin, Galusha Bawalia, was named in the shortlist for the 1996 FIFA World Player of the Year. What position that year was he voted? Did he finish?
Oh, that's a hard one.
I thought you might know this as being the kind of person that leaves no stone unturned.
Oh, that's a hard one. I actually don't know.
Do you know stab in the dark?
He finished 20th.
Oh no, he finished 12th actually.
12th.
12th.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah,
no,
12th.
You definitely didn't.
2 for 2.
1 out of 2. So we know you can only get equal now. All right, no one still got 6. This is concerning. Okay, you were famous for your front flip. Which player is known for sitting on the floor in the meditation position?
Okay, I've seen a lot of this guy.
It's an easy one. It's an easy one.
Haaland.
Yeah,
Mr. Haaland.
Case, we were saying, is that too easy? Yes, it was.
I've seen it. I've actually been to a lot of games this year, Man City, and I've got to see him 400 million times. Do it.
2 out of 3. 4. You are the only person to have scored hat-tricks in the EFL divisions, Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, International. Who, though, has the most hat-tricks in the Premier League?
Most hat-tricks in
the Premier League? Statman, you'll know this. No? Research, you've done it.
Most hat-tricks in the Premier League. So many players running through my mind right now. It's like, oh, he should be this, but is it this guy?
Okay. Timeline.
I'm gonna go for Harry Kane.
Sergio
Aguero.
12.
Wow. How many is Harry Kane going?
Don't ask me that. I only looked at the top one.
Sergio Aguero. That's a good one. I like that.
Question 5.
Now I'll never remember.
No. Question 5. When you finished as top goal scorer for Forest in 2008, how many goals did you score total?
In 2008,
2008, 2009.
What was it? 17?
Correct. It was 12 in the league, 17 overall.
How many is that?
That's 3?
3 out of 5?
I can't even tell. Okay, and your bonus question.
Okay.
So when you played back in the day, the voice is slightly disguised. Listen to what he says.
We both scored against Ipswich.
That's a hard one. No, the only one I can think of, I might be wrong or completely right, is Radi Majewski.
Do you want one more time? It's not.
Yeah, play it. Play it one more time.
Not him.
We both scored against Ipswich.
The Ipswich thing throws me off.
Tumbleweed.
I played with, right? Who is that?
I can't remember what it sounded like first, but they make them sound like little children.
Yeah. Lewis McGugan.
No. Guy Musai.
Okay. My boy Guy, yes.
How many did you get?
It sounds so off. It doesn't sound anything like him.
Rob,
That's so hard.
Do you want to do the honours?
Okay.
Did you get 3? 3. I mean, the last one, sorry, confused us all, but we're there. Robert Earnshaw on the leaderboard, and you can move yourself up past Jason Lee if you'd like to, because
Number 1.
Incorrect. I'm going to place you. We can go on. We can go here. Sorry, Jason. Rob can go there if he wants to. Oh, for goodness sake!
What a shame.
That was the official Nottingham Forest podcast on and off the pitch with Robert Earnshaw. We now know he likes to bend the truth a little bit on answers to questions. We heard his love of quiz with Chris Cohen, and maybe they cheated back then in the ice baths as well. Anyway, that story will continue another time. We've found out this man loves to chat. Thank you so much for being a great sport. If you enjoyed this, you know how to find us. Go and subscribe on wherever you listen to your podcast, and then just hit the notifications as well on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.